Hello, my name is Bob, and I'm a tutor at Raritan Valley Community College's Academic Support Center. This is session 3 on our sessions with the TI-83 and TI-84 calculator, and in this session we're going to look at regression, and in this module in specific we're going to look at linear regression. At the end of this module you should be able to clear old data from a list, enter new data into a list, create a scatter plot of the data and trace the data, calculate the equation of a line that best fits the data using the linReg function, use the scatter plot with the equation inserted, calculate the difference between the actual value and the predicted value, use the table feature to predict values for other points on the line, and obtain the r and r squared values for the equation. So let's get started. Let's suppose we had a problem where we have forecasted several points of data. In our example, we're looking at cable TV in China, and they give us the years as -4, -3, up through 3, and data points for each of those years. Now, if we were to plot those, we would find they fall all over a graph, and we would like to be able to plot them on a TI-83-84 calculator, and then find the line that best fits that data. So let's get started and see what we can do. We turn our calculator on, and you can see there's some old data, so the first thing we do is clear our home screen by pressing the clear button. And now we're going to put some data into a list. But before that, we need to make sure that the list is clear. So we're going to press the Stat button, and then hit the Edit button. And you can see there's some data in there from old calculations, and we can get rid of that in a couple of different ways. First, we could scroll up to the L5 header, hit Clear, and scroll back down, and you can see List 5 has disappeared. The other thing we could do is go to the home screen, we'll hit Second Quit, we'll hit Stat, and we'll scroll down to 4, and we could hit Clear List, and we could put Clear List second L1 in there, and that would clear List 1. And if we go back to Stat and Edit, you can scroll over to List 1, and you can see that List 1 is gone. Alright, the other thing you can do is clear all lists at once. We'll go back to the home screen, Second Quit. We're going to go to the memory function, which is over the plus key. We're going to hit Second Memory. Scroll down to number 4, which is Clear All Lists. Press Enter, and Enter again, and now all our lists are cleared. The other thing we want to do is make sure there's nothing in the Y equals screen, and so we're going to go to Y equals, and we're going to clear the old data that's in there as well. Now we can enter the data that we want to enter. So we go back to Stat, we hit Edit one more time, and we're going to put in that first column our years. So the first entry is -4. We hit the Enter key, and it loads it in and moves down to the next line underneath. We put in -3, Enter, -2, Enter, -1, Enter, 0, Enter, 1, Enter, 2, Enter, and 3, Enter. And now we've got all of our List 1 data, which are our years, loaded into the calculator. We scroll right to List 2, and you can see it moves us to the top of List 2, and so we put in the data for the corresponding years. We put in 50, Enter, 55, Enter, 57, Enter, 60, Enter, 68, Enter, 72, Enter, 80, Enter, and 83, Enter. So now that we've got our data loaded in, what we're going to do is we're going to go back in and just try and do a scatter plot of that data. And the way we do that is with stat plot. So we're going to go to stat plot, we're going to hit the second stat plot key. Plot 1 is highlighted, so we'll hit Enter. And if your plot was turned off, we would scroll over to the On button and turn it on. If you were on a different graph, we want to be on the scatter plot graph, which is the very first one, and we hit Enter for that. Our data is in List 1, and that's fine. If not, we would put List 1 in there. Our Y data is in List 2, and that's fine also, so we're ready to go, and we can hit the Graph button. Now, if the data did not show up, suppose we were in a different window. Suppose somebody had us in a standard window, and we'll hit the Zoom Standard. I'm going to just press the 6 button, and you can see our data is not in there. We can always, with stat data, get to the window we want by hitting the Zoom and then scrolling down to the 9th function, which is Zoom Stat, and hit Enter, and you can see our data comes right back in the window. So there's our scatter plot of the data. Now if we wanted to, we could trace along and see what each of those points was. We would hit the trace button, and you can see we have a little X flashing over the first thing, and it says our X value is -4 and our Y value is 50. Scroll once to the right and it skips to the next value on the line, and you can see our Y value is -3, or excuse me, our X value is -3 and our Y value is 55. Scroll right again and our X value is -2 and our Y value is 57. And we can go on across the line and see all of our values. So that's really great. Now what we want to do is find the equation of a line that best fits through all those points. And we can do that using the linreg function. So we're going to go back to the home screen by hitting second quit. And now we want to do that linreg function. We'll hit stat one more time, scroll right once to the calculate functions, and you can see the fourth one down is the linear regression. We'll scroll down to 4 and hit enter. Now if we just hit enter at this point here, you can see that we get the linear regression, y equals ax plus b, and it gives us the a value is 4.86 and a lot of other numbers, and the b value is 6.8 and a lot of other numbers, and that's great. But suppose we wanted to put that right onto the graph. Well, if we hit our graph button, there's still nothing there. So let's go back to the home screen and do linreg one more time. This time we're going to hit stat, we're going to scroll over to calculate, we're going to hit the button 4 for the linreg function. And now, after that linreg, we're going to put our opening parentheses, and now we're going to tell it where the data is and where we want it to go. We know our X values are in list 1, so we're going to hit second list 1, put a comma in. We know our Y values are in list 2, so we're going to hit second list 2 and put a comma in. And now we want to put the equation in the Y equals area. And the way we do that is by hitting the vars or variable function. We're going to scroll right for Y variables, and there are different forms of Y variables. We're going to use the function form, so we hit enter. And we're going to put it in Y1, so we just hit enter a second time, put a closing parentheses on, and hit enter. And we get the same data that we had before, but now if we hit the Y equals key, you can see the equation was loaded directly into the Y equals screen. And if we hit zoom and we scroll down to zoom stat for number 9 again, there's our points, but there's our date line going right through all that data. Now, some people ask how good a fit that is, and if you want to know that, we'll go back to the home screen, and you see that R squared data and R data there? Well, R squared is the goodness of fit of this data. The closer R squared is to 1, the better the data fits. So if you're doing other kinds of regression, and we're not going to do them in the tape today, but there's quadratic regressions and sign regressions, etc., the one that has the R squared closest to 1 is the one that fits best. Now suppose the R squared did not pop up on your screen. If you only got Y equals AX plus B and an A value and a B value, you're going to have to redo the calculation, but you're going to have to do something called turning the diagnostics on. And the way you do that is hit the second catalog button, then we hold the scroll button down until it gets to the D's. You can see it scrolling through here pretty quickly. We're into the C's, there we're into the D's. We're looking for diagnostic, and you can see diagnostic off there and diagnostic on. If I hit diagnostic off and I hit enter, it turns, and now hit enter a second time so it does the function. It turns the diagnostics off. If I were to hit stat, calc, linreg, enter, enter, you can see we get it without the R and the R squared. If I want to turn it on, second catalog over the 0, hold it down and scroll to that D again for diagnostic on. And we're scrolling. There's diagnostic on, enter, and enter again, and now the diagnostics are back on. Hit stat, calc, linreg, enter, enter, and you can see our R squared and R appeared again. Okay, now let's go back to our graph and we'll take a look at it. We can, like I said the last time, trace along that and see as we hit the scroll button that we jump to the various points. Suppose we wanted to be on the line instead of on the points. Instead of scrolling left and right, we scroll up to jump up to the line. And now if we scroll, you can see that we're scrolling along the line. And we get down and we get back to the points once again. Now suppose somebody asked us how good our calculation was, and we wanted to see the difference between the actual value that we put in and the predicted value according to the equation. We can do that calculation as well. Let's go back to the stats, edit our data, and now let's go over to column L3. And we're going to put a formula in for L3. So we scrolled up to the L3 label, and you can see at the bottom of the screen we have L3 equals. We want L3 to equal Y1. So we're going to hit vars, scroll over to Y vars, hit enter for function, hit enter for Y1. It says L3 equals Y1, but we want Y1 of column 1. So we're going to put in a parentheses, second L1 closing parentheses, enter. And now you can see the predicted value in L3 for every year that we had in there. So we can compare the predicted value to the actual value that we recorded. We can scroll right one more time to L4. We'll scroll up to L4, and let's just make this formula equal to second L3 minus second L4, and hit enter. Oops, an error. So we're going to hit go to and see what the error was. We subtracted L3 from L4. We can't do that. We're going to change our formula. We'll clear the formula entirely. It's second L2 minus second L3. Hit enter. And now you can see the differences between L2 and L3 in that column. So if somebody wanted to compare each of the predicted values against the actual values, that's how you can do it. Now suppose somebody asked you, what would we calculate for year 4 in this? Remember, we only had data through year 3. We can do that as well. So let's go back to our home screen for just a second. We'll hit second quit. We'll take a quick look at that graph. And we're going to trace over, and you can see that last point there is, I think I'm on the graph. The last point is x equals 3 and y equals 83. Suppose we wanted to calculate what it would be if at x equaled 4. Well, there's a couple ways to do that. And the easiest way is using the table function. So we can hit second table, and you can see there's a table generated there with all the values. Well, suppose we wanted to look for a specific value. We can do that by hitting second table set. We're going to scroll down to the independent variable, and where it says auto, we're going to make that ask. Now the independent variable is our x variable, which is an L1. When we make this ask, when we go to second table, now you can see the table is empty. If we put a 4 in there and hit the enter key, you can see that the calculated value would be 87.536. If we put a 0.5 in there for halfway through a year, you can see our value would be 70.494. So any value that we wanted to calculate, we could do that way. Of course, the other way we could do this is we could do it on the home screen. If we go to second quit, and on the home screen we would hit variables, scroll right to y variables, hit enter for y1, and suppose we put in parentheses for parentheses and hit enter, you can see we get exactly the same number that we had in the previous table. So there's two ways that we can calculate specific values for the line that's on there. So let's recap what we've done. First, we cleared some old data from the list 3 different ways, using the clear list function, using the clear all function, and by scrolling up to the label and scrolling down. Then we enter data into the list off of the stat and edit functions. We created the scatter plot, and then we traced the data. Then we calculated the equation of the line that fit the data using the linreg function. Then we put in the scatter plot, and we inserted the line right onto the scatter plot so we could see how it fit. Then we calculated the difference between the actual value and the predicted value. We looked at how we could turn on R and R squared, and we looked at how we could use the table feature to predict the values for other points on the line. So this concludes Session 3, Module 1.
These podcasts are being presented by Raritan Valley Community College. Raritan Valley Community College is a two-year college located in Branchburg, New Jersey. It serves both Hunterdon and Somerset counties as well as the other counties of New Jersey. RVCC offers a wide variety of majors, from the arts, humanities, math, science, nursing, etc. It offers both credit and non-credit courses and is a very economic option for those students either leaving high school directly or for those who are re-entering the workforce. RVCC can be the secret to your success.